Okay, we've got a lot to talk about tonight. First of all, you guys are putting points on the board. You gals are putting points on the board. Another very, very strong month. Recruiting, sales, new members, new distributors. Congratulations. I'm really, really proud of you. By the way, thank you for the hard work you've been doing. We had 5 regional calls yesterday to talk about a new beta program we're working, talked to a lot of people, and those were very rewarding. Gave us a chance to see what you're doing in the field and gave you a chance to see what we're doing here to support you. Would like to thank Jennifer Diaz. She's going to be translating for our host today. So thank you for that. Now we've also got another announcement we would like to make about the Now More Than Ever cadence. So we've been doing these calls every single Thursday. They've been very successful, but we've been receiving some requests. We want to do a few more regional meetings, leader driven. We do those meetings up in Montreal right now, a very strong group, they're growing. Puerto Rico, El Paso, many locations want us to be hosting their individual meetings, and that's okay. So we've arranged for the following cadence. The last Thursday, or the first Thursday of the month, which is right now, is a Unicity International Now More Than Ever call. Next Thursday will be a leader-driven, Unicity-hosted Now More Than Ever call. And we've already got that slot filled. The week following, the third week, will be a Unicity International Now More Than Ever call, just like tonight. And the fourth week will be a leader-driven, more regional, Now More Than Ever call. Now, if your leaders are not, they need to reach out to us and make sure they have a week reserved. So nudge your leaders. If you're not on the schedule, talk to your upline and let's get it going. We're happy to serve locally. This kind of takes the place of us getting on an airplane, going to your local region. And again, we've had requests to regionalize these meetings, but I think it's important that as a North American group, we are all together at least twice a month, and that's what we're doing here. So next week is taken with a leader-driven Now More Than Ever meeting, corporate hosted, leader-driven. And on the 20th, we've also got a leader-driven Unicity hosted meeting scheduled. So we will see the entire group again on the 13th of August. So that's the new cadence, and we're going to see if that provides the local regional people the support that they've been asking for. Now, today, we're going to be talking to Vasty Rivera. We're going to be hearing from Vasty Rivera. She is presidential Sapphire over one of our hottest markets. Puerto Rico has grown by 100% in the last 3 or 4 months. She is the highest ranking person we have there, presidential Sapphire, doing great work. She is a champion of personal development, and her team has some of the people who are growing the fastest rank-wise, volume-wise, organization-wise at Unicity. I'm thrilled to have her. So enough about me and enough from me, and let's turn the time over to Vasty Rivera from Puerto Rico. Thank you, Vasti.
Gracias, Clayton Barton. Y nuevamente, disculpen que tenemos problemas de internet y problemas atmosféricos en Puerto Rico.
Thank you, Clayton, again. And sorry for, because we're having problems with technology because we have a storming passing by through Puerto Rico today.
Sin embargo, estoy muy emocionada de tener la oportunidad de presentar a nuestro conferencista de hoy.
But today I'm very excited because today I have the opportunity to present our Dr. Bikman today.
Tuve la oportunidad de conocer al Dr. Bikman en Utah en el 2019.
I had the opportunity to meet Dr. Bikman in Utah in 2009.
Quedé impactada por la información tan valiosa que compartió.
I got so impacted with all the great information he shared.
Y te quiero compartir algo de él.
I want to share something with you about him.
El enfoque de investigación del Dr. Bikman es dilucidar los mecanismos moleculares que median la interrupción que causa y acompaña los trastornos metabólicos como la obesidad, la diabetes tipo 2 y la demencia.
Dr. Bikman's focus is he focuses on the mechanism of moleculars that through the causes the interruption, and it comes with metabolic I'm sorry metabolic diseases, kind of like the obesity, diabetes type 2, and dementia.
Impulsado por su formación académica, tiene un doctorado en bioenergética y beca postdoctoral en la Universidad Nacional Duke de Singapur en trastornos metabólicos.
So in his education, he has a doctorate degree in bioenergetic and postdoctoral on the University of National Duke of Singapore in metabolic, what's that word again? Metabolic
disease.
Diseases. Sorry.
Yeah. Yes. Actualmente está explorando los roles contrastantes de la insulina y las cetonas como impulsores clave de la función metabólica.
So right now he's exploring the different contrasts in the insulin and ketones that impose keys to function metabolic health.
Y si quieres disfrutar más de sus investigaciones, con frecuencia él publica su investigación en revistas revisadas por pares y presenta en reuniones científicas internacionales.
And if you want to learn more about him, you can see in his investigations, you can see his research in different magazines and different meetings that are all around the world.
Para nosotros en Puerto Rico es importante la salud metabólica por la dieta cotidiana que tenemos.
For us in Puerto Rico, it's very important to have a healthy metabolic health because of our diet.
Así que toma nota. Con ustedes el Dr. Bikman y gracias Jennifer Díaz.
So take note. This is a very important call, and with you we have Dr. Bikman. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Thanks for that very warm introduction. I am delighted to be here. I am always happy to be able to have more students, to be a professor and share with you some of what I know with regards to metabolic health. Now, I appreciated the invitation to participate simply because now more than ever, the theme of this meeting, we have a metabolic emergency. We must understand the role of metabolic health, even in diseases that you would think don't have anything to do with metabolic health, like, in fact, infections that people may be afraid of these days. Now, as a scientist, as mentioned in that wonderful introduction, my focus is human metabolism. And what I specifically focus on as a scientist is a condition called insulin resistance. And it is one that you should be aware of. It is the single most common health disorder in the world, affecting over half of adults in North America. That includes Central America. This is more than half of adults in India and China and in the Middle East. This is a problem that is spreading around the world, and it has its hand in almost every other disease you can think of. Virtually every chronic disease in some way is going to be coming from insulin resistance. So I've devoted my career to understanding this disease and then hopefully sharing some of this information. So this is something that you should bring up when you speak about health and disease with the people that you love. The main cause of insulin resistance, when you mention insulin resistance is the most common problem, your friend will say, well, how do you get it? It is mostly caused by too much insulin. And of course, insulin climbs in the blood. Insulin goes up in the blood and is high when glucose or blood sugar is elevated. So we live a life where we are constantly eating starchy, sugary foods all the time because we are told that we should eat 6 times a day or something like that. It's terrible advice, but it is a wonderful way to make sure your insulin is elevated all the time, and then you become insulin resistant. So in other words, not a good strategy. So if constantly increasing blood glucose is the problem with constantly spiking insulin, driving insulin resistance, how can we support healthy blood sugar levels? What could you tell your friend when they ask you how they can improve their metabolic health? Well, the key will be to lowering glucose. And there's 3 pieces of advice I want to leave you with. As you speak with your friend, you can say, well, there's 3 things you can do to help. 1 is to focus on fiber. 2, maximize your mitochondria. And then 3, fuel the body. Let your body's cells learn how to be fueled with fat. Now, let me go through each of these with the time we have. First of all, to focus on fiber is important because our modern diet is so deficient in fiber. As we take natural foods, when we process them, one of the first things that we lose is fiber. Like, for example, when we're drinking apple juice, what we've lost is all the fiber, and that fundamentally changes how our bodies metabolize the energy that we're getting from those apples. And we can say the same thing with many other fruits and vegetables. The more we've processed them, the more we've lost fiber. Now, unfortunately, as glucose drives insulin, what we need to do in this case, where we've removed fiber from so many of our foods that naturally had it, we need to put it back in. We need to focus on adding dietary fiber into our diet in an effort to help improve our metabolic health. Now, number 2, maximize your mitochondria. Well, here is my silly little cartoonish picture of a mitochondria. In fact, this is something that we study in my lab very actively. And I'm in my office now. My lab is just across the hallway here. We have machines that actually measure how much the mitochondria are working. And the mitochondria are supremely important because these are the things within our cells that give our cells energy. Often the mitochondria are referred to as the powerhouse of the cell, and that's a pretty good name. It's like a little power plant. It's making energy. Like a power plant is generating electricity by burning certain fuels. The mitochondria makes electricity, if you will. It makes an energy for the cell by burning fuels as well. The mitochondria is where we burn fats and glucose or blood sugar. And when we burn these energy sources, we can actually have 2 outcomes. We can have something called oxidative stress, or we can have actual cellular energy, which is what our cells are hoping to get. The oxidative stress is something like you could look at as the pollution. When we are burning, say, coal or natural gas at a power plant, one of the consequences will be that we can get electricity from that combustion, from burning that fuel. Unfortunately, we will also get some exhaust, some pollution. Oxidative stress is kind of like the pollution coming from the mitochondria. And if we can improve the health of our mitochondria or maximize that health, then we actually can help the mitochondria make less of this waste, less of this pollution, the oxidative stress, and in contrast, burn energy, burn the available chemical energy from fat and glucose to give energy to the cell. Now, lastly, fuel with fat. I know that around the world, fat has become the thing that people fear the most. When we look at the foods we eat, all of our foods can be broken up into 3 main nutrients, what's called the macronutrients. And these are fat, protein, and carbohydrate. Now, to a scientist, when I look at these macronutrients, I care about what these do to glucose and insulin levels. because the key to healthy living is keeping those in control. When we eat fat, insulin and glucose don't change at all. When we eat pure protein, then we get a modest change, but it's fairly small. When we eat pure glucose, in contrast, we get a significant change, where someone can have an insulin spike where the insulin goes 10 times over normal levels and can take up to 4 hours before coming back down. And that matters for insulin resistance, it matters for the brain getting energy, it matters for fertility and fatty and liver health. We don't want insulin to be spiked all the time. Now, with regards to fuel with fat, I mentioned a moment ago that fat and carbohydrate are the fuels that we burn in the mitochondria. And insulin is what determines that fuel use. Insulin will decide which of these fuels is being used more. Are we using fat for fuel, or are we using glucose for fuel? And of course, what's interesting about this is you burn what you eat. And so most people are stuck burning their blood sugar, their sugar burning all the time because they always eat carbohydrates. They're constantly eating starches and sugars. In contrast, if we can give the carbohydrates a break and focus on more fat in our diet, fat as a fuel, then we start burning more fat. So I want to say you burn, metabolically, you burn what you eat. And then lastly, of course, I add that you cannot hope to lose fat. You can't hope to have your fat cells shrink if you don't burn fat. In other words, you must burn fat in order for fat cells to shrink. And that can only happen when insulin is low. Now, these were the three rules, if you will, the three pillars that I'm giving you, and I hope you will share this with your friends when they are worried about their metabolic health. Focus on fiber, maximize mitochondria, and fuel with fat. And again, this matters now more than ever, as we are afraid of this global this viral infection. We know that people who have healthy metabolic health can weather that storm better. And I'm delighted to have heard that when I learned about this program that you've created, the Activate Plus program. I think it is genius. I've been thrilled as I've heard about some of the positive results that you're all seeing as people are incorporating this plan and the products. And I just wanted to bring in my thoughts on what could fit within your Activate Plus program. And I wanted to mention 3 products in particular: Balance, Matcha, and then Unimate, both the classic Unimate and Unimate Fuel. Each of these are wonderful ways to actually apply these 3 rules that I'm giving you. Now, briefly, focus on fiber. I actually really appreciated the introductory videos where Mr. Hughes was talking about this product. I assume it was Unicity Balance. This is, in fact, a wonderful source of fiber that has been shown to support controlling blood glucose levels better. That is a key to metabolic health. One of the worst things we can do for our health is constantly spiking our glucose. And we have these what's called excursions from normal. It goes really high and then it goes low again, and really high and low again. We want to avoid all of those glucose peaks. We just want to go along a flat glucose road, if you will, and avoid having to climb those mountains, those metabolic mountains. Focus on fiber, and balance is a tremendous way to make sure you're doing that. Now, the mitochondria, like I mentioned a moment ago, that is the powerhouse of the cell. That is what gives our cells energy. And it's interesting to note, in matcha, matcha is enriched with a molecule called EGCG, or epicatechins. These molecules have been shown, these specific molecules, to support healthy cognition, so actually helping the brain think and work better. They also support overall metabolic health, once again supporting healthy glucose control. So these molecules, these epicatechins that are enriched in matcha, they have demonstrable effects on helping cells work better, make energy better by improving the state of the mitochondria. And then lastly, fuel with fat. I confess this is one of my favorite topics. As a scientist, I actually study fat cells, our human fat cells, more than anything else, even to the point that in my lab at my university, we have humans come in and we pull out little pieces of their fat cells. And we're actually about to publish a study where we found that Unimate, this actual Unimate from Unicity, altered the metabolism in fat cells. And I won't show those data now. That is a scientific manuscript that we will actually plan to publish. So I can show it to you once it's published. Now, nevertheless, Unimate and Unimate Fuel come with a really dynamite mix. Chlorogenic acids are inherent to the mate that we use. And with Unimate Fuel, we've added coconut oil. Now, two things I want to mention about this mix. The chlorogenic acids have been shown to enhance the cell's reliance on fat for fuel. It actually shifts the metabolism away from sugar burning to rely more on fat burning. And then lastly, especially with the coconut oil, this is a great mix because it has been shown to support healthy cognitive function. This is in published human studies, including the little studies that I'm referencing in the corner of this slide that you can look up and learn and share with your friends. So nothing I'm saying is my opinion. I'm speaking as a scientist with data in mind. Remember, it's never my opinion. It's only science. And that's my hope that you share this with others. So in conclusion, I want to remind you of the three rules, the three pillars, if you will, to help us address this metabolic emergency in the midst of other medical emergencies that we're all aware of right now. Focus on fiber, maximize your mitochondria, help them work better, and then fuel the body with fat. Help the body remember or learn how to burn fat better. And these three pillars can be realized very effectively with what I believe are three very effective products. Now, let me say, before I conclude, I hope you appreciate how unique it is that a supplement company invites a scientist like me to come and give a talk at a meeting like this. I am a scientist. I can look at this as an outsider. And so I hope you can appreciate the efforts Unicity takes in order to give you the perspective that a scientist has with regards to metabolic health. So you understand the problem, and I believe you also can offer some of the solutions. Thank you all so much for listening. I hope you've been able to learn something, especially something that you can share with your friends and family.
Muchas gracias al doctor Bikman, información muy valiosa. Yo tomé muchas notas, espero que ustedes también.
Thank you, Dr. Bikman, for all your great information. She took a lot of notes, and she hopes everyone did too.
Y tenemos,
Good. I love it when my students take notes. I love it. Thank you.
Gracias. Tenemos muy buenas noticias. Clayton acaba de agregar una super oferta.
We have great news. Clayton just put out a great deal for us.
Compra 2 Fuel Salted Caramel y recibes uno natural gratis, solo hasta el viernes.
Okay, I love this one. You buy 2 salted caramel Unimate Fuel, and you get a natural flavor for free, and you have till Friday.
Y tenemos otra gran noticia.
We have another great news.
Para el mes de agosto, Clayton nos ha concedido la franquicia de distribuidor gratis.
Oh my God. So Clayton led us for the month of August to keep enrolling people for free.
Y es algo que me emociona mucho porque cuando impactas a una persona con uno de los productos y se convierte en un distribuidor, puede apoyar a muchas familias en la salud.
This is something that excites us very much because when you meet somebody and you introduce them to one of our products and they can become distributors, they can impact their lives and the lives of their family too.
Entonces, quiero decirte algo antes de despedirme.
want to say something before we leave.
Si tú estás aquí con nosotros esta noche porque alguien te invitó,
If you're here with someone, if you're here because someone invited you tonight,
no olvides llamar a esa persona. Es muy importante que comiences a asociarte con ella, impactar tu salud para poder impactar a otros.
don't forget to call that person that invited you tonight, because today you can start impacting your life and start impacting other people's lives.
Estamos en el mejor momento de la historia para poder hacer un gran negocio impactando la salud de otras personas.
We're in the best moment of our lives and the best moment to be in this business, because we're helping our health and helping others to get better health.
Yo personalmente estoy comprometida con eso. Tuve una reunión con mi familia y ellos se comprometieron a hacer lo mismo que yo.
Personally, I'm very involved, and I had a meeting with my family and they decided to have the same compromise as me.
Si tú impactas a una persona, impactas una familia, impactas una comunidad, impactas al mundo.
If you impact one person, you impact a family, you impact a community, and you can impact the world.
Así que únete al equipo de Unicity y buenas noches desde Puerto Rico.
So today, team up with Unicity, and good night from Puerto Rico.
Gracias.
Thank you. Good night.